Nort Johnson is with us. He's a country boy, right?
You know, close enough to the country to call myself that from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you live here in Faribault. He is the community marketing director. I love that title.
It encompasses a lot of the different duties that I tend to, including tourism and Main Street. So.
Yeah. Well, good morning, Nort. Nort, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for
We're
asking.
going to touch on the businesses of the year, but before I touch on that, I did not realize this. You probably knew this because you know you're a smart guy.
Well, we'll see. What did I know?
There's a Rice County, Kansas. You knew that?
Rice County, Kansas. I did know that.
The reason I bring that up is they have a tourism grant application.
Here, I'm going to fill that out.
$1,000 maximum.
Okay.
And I thought this is really a pretty neat idea, and I thought I'd share that with Nort.
Yeah, you know,
something to think about here locally, you know.
Oh, sure, and we've done those in my past tourism work. And basically, what it allows you to do as a tourism marketing agency, if you can provide a grant for marketing, a matching grant. For example, a Main Street restaurant wants to go in a publication that makes sense for Faribault to be showcased in. We could provide a matching grant. If they put 500, we pay 500, and we double the exposure for the city and double down on our marketing dollars, which is recouped through the lodging tax in town. So they're good programs. I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, you get a benefit from it, meaning the tourism department.
Exactly.
The business gets a benefit from it, so it's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely. And the more traffic that you generate from those marketing investments helps grow the marketing budget year after year. So it spirals up. And the more that you can invest, the better that you do. So.
Do you have any idea what we raise in terms of lodging tax dollars?
I do. The dollar amount for 2014 that was recouped was just a fuzz over $100,000 for Faribault. There's some of that that's used by the city or kept by the city for a fund to manage that fund, and then the rest is turned over in the form of a contract to the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, which acts as the agency and has an approved marketing program and budget put together to appropriately invest those dollars into promoting Faribault.
And they have to be used for promoting, right?
Correct. It's all promoting and marketing, and which isn't just buying an advertisement. For example, later today, I'll be in Austin, Minnesota with the Southern Minnesota Tourism Association.
Let me guess, you're meeting at the Spam Museum.
The Spam Museum's actually under some construction or remodeling right now.
They're doing a new one in downtown Austin.
Yeah. So we'll be meeting at another location, but I've been through the Spam Museum, an interesting place to be sure. But those, making sure that we have a representative of Faribault to arrive at those events statewide and regionally ensures that Faribault is front of mind for our other partners and our other tourism agencies in the area.
Well, last time you were on, I think I got those Explore Minnesota numbers showing us third in the region.
Right, right. So, and it's important to stay on top of our exposure in those ways. That's just another way that we can make sure that we're marketing ourselves appropriately.
And if you think about it, Rochester's over 100,000 people.
Rochester's a big town, and there's certainly opportunities to bring more of those folks to Faribault for activities.
I like the way you think, Nort.
Hey.
We don't have to go to Kansas, California, Texas. Let's invite Rochester residents to come up here and enjoy our beautiful lakes.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you from my experience in marketing South Dakota, we picked off Minnesota as a pretty huge target for us because of the population. And just to the north of Faribault, 45 minutes up the road, there's a huge population center. And we have things to offer in Faribault that they don't have. We're a short drive for their weekend getaways. So putting the right packages together, we've got the markets. Rochester, Metro, Mankato, all very close by.
All are perfectly placed, no question about that. Nort Johnson is, I don't know why, but you ever talk and all of a sudden something funny hits your head?
It happens frequently. I've got a mind that works like that, I guess.
I mean, and I can't share with them what hit my head.
Oh, okay.
To be honest. It was a conversation I had earlier today with another person in the building. 30th Annual Business Awards Luncheon is tomorrow. Thought we might touch briefly on that. Of course, you're involved with the Main Street program.
Yes,
Again,
sir.
for those listeners who may not know, can you explain what that program's all about?
The Main Street program is part of a national program to help revitalize main streets, and especially those with historic districts. And we do have the largest historic district in the state of Minnesota outside of St. Paul. And for a town of our size, it's a nice asset to have. So the Main Street program consists of committees. One of them is a promotions committee. Helps get involved to make sure things like Ladies' Night Out a few weeks ago. It comes off really well. That group works on that. We're involved with Crazy Days, the Car Cruise Nights, and a few others. So there's also an economic recovery group. And the main goals behind that group are to make sure that we have the proper research in place so that we know which directions we should be headed for proper business mix downtown. Try to keep our tabs on the right programming to be put into place, or that I should say that's in place already. Different subsidies and incentive programs to have your businesses fixed up and running well downtown. And anything else that makes sense for improving downtown. The research is done and ideas are brought forward. And they all come together for the Main Street Board of Directors. Oh, I forgot the Design Committee. Design Committee. And
don't want to forget the Design
We do not want to forget the Design Committee.
Which reminds me, I'm glad you touched on that. A few years back, the city did not have enough money in their budget to do the flower baskets downtown. Main Street came on this program, and I've sure talked to people, various organizations and whatnot, and were able to raise enough to do the baskets, and they've done them every year since, I think.
You know, they have done them every year since, but it's now, the city's taken the program back over.
Oh, okay.
And the Main Street Program Design Committee stepped up and managed that in short order and did a fantastic job. In fact, Peggy Kylan, right next door to us here, is the chairperson of that committee. Really does an outstanding job. We're working on a couple projects through that committee right now. Some wayfinding signage, help with trails, for example, between downtown and the Riverbend Nature Center. You can get there, the signage is not necessarily just right, so we're providing some recommendations to help with that. We're talking benches and a program to get benches that are not restricted to utilitarian use, just a plain bench, but we're trying to put together a program where we would put benches that help tell the historic story of Faribault. That program's coming together well. Not ready for public consumption on all the details yet, but look for something with a good partnership there, community-wide. So looking forward to putting that together.
A teaser, I like that.
That partnerships are what it's all about. Now these three committees report to the Main Street Board of Directors, and there's funding that comes into the Main Street program. It's funded by the EDA and by the Chamber of Commerce in partnership. The Chamber of Commerce houses the staffing for running the program, and that's me, and also manages other details with regard to the administration of it. But the volunteers are they're the flesh and blood soul of this whole program. They come to the table for all those committees and the board of directors. When you see one of those people, give them a shout out and a nod, because they're putting their time into a program that really makes a big difference for Faribault.
Stopped into Burkhardt's-Meyer's before I left on my trip to Italy to get myself a good pair of walking shoes. I'll tell you what, just closed circuit out there, folks. Got the best pair of walking shoes I've ever had.
Awesome. A shoe store is quite an asset for this town. Mr. Bruce Burkhardt's-Meyer has been involved with Main Street from the beginning, and he's actually the chair of the Main Street Board right now. Just a really great guy to have involved with those things. So
he's been around since, he knows a lot of history of downtown.
You're not describing him as old, I hope, right?
No, of course not. He's about my age. So.
There you go. Young man. We all are. But yes, he's got the history. The family has the history of the business. I heard the story about some some underground rail tracks that existed quite a while ago. The city had opened up the street and found the tracks still down below, and Bruce had the story to share with them what that was about. So definitely between he and his family have been around here a while and have good involvement and good information for everyone to share.
But when I was down there, and of course we left, was it April 6th, we left on our trip, the tilt-a-whirl car, not yet in place?
Not yet in place. There's actually going to be a ceremony. I can double check the date. I think it's the 18th of June.
Okay. So right around Heritage Days.
Right, that it's going to be set. And the chosen location is in front of Berkensmeyer Shoes. So the first tilt-a-whirl car will be placed there. It should be pretty fun.
Oh,
really.
I think you'll see lots of people taking selfies there.
I believe it. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got the group has a second car. I'm not entirely sure where they're at on fundraising for restoration or exactly where they're going to place it, but I think that getting this one placed will provide a little energy to move forward with some more projects like that.
For sure. And it makes perfect sense. It's part of the fabric of this community.
It really is. Did you know that Sellner Manufacturing actually made the first water slide as well?
I didn't know that.
Just found that out about a week and a half ago. There was a little tidbit flying around in the news of the things you didn't know that small communities are famous for.
So the first water slide ever made was made by Sellner Manufacturing?
According to the article. According to the article, yes. And
because I have a picture, I'm pretty sure, of a water slide up by French Lake, but way, way, way back.
Oh, how fun. We should try to...
It was massive.
We should check that out.
It wouldn't be allowed nowadays. Let me
oh, really?
Well, you know.
Well, the safety concerns, the skin in your knees and bruising your elbows is not a bad thing.
I've seen the picture. Rice County Historical Society will probably have a picture of this too.
We'll have to find that.
Check on that.
That would be a fun thing to look up. But yeah, Sellner Manufacturing had that impact, and who knew? Because water slides are pretty popular destinations.
Oh, well, what water park doesn't have a water slide?
Yeah, or 3 or 4 of them. So, no doubt. So yeah, Sellner Manufacturing.
Evidently didn't put a patent on it, right?
I guess not. I guess not.
Bummer.
So we need to, I've tongue-in-cheek said now, since we're the home of the water slide, maybe we should start one at the top of the viaduct and curl it right down into the river.
Hey, there's an idea.
There's a fresh
Probably
activity
wouldn't be
for
allowed
downtown. I don't think they'd let us get by with it. It's kind of a fun idea.
No, that wouldn't be allowed either. Lake City, the birthplace of water skiing.
Okay.
So,
that's just up the road.
Nowhere in Florida or California, all that, coastal property, did they invent this stuff. Water skiing was invented in Lake City, Minnesota, and water slides in Faribault, Minnesota.
It must be that cabin fever. Once it thaws out, we just want to go have fun, right? So let's take the barrel staves and get a rope and put it behind the boat. See what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Fun.
Well, of course, winters can be brutal in South Dakota too. They just got snow last weekend.
In fact, I was out there. We were loading up to move another load of goods back to Minnesota. And decided we had to hurry up, so we missed the 18 inches of snow they got in Rapid City. Got out of Rapid City, took an overnight, got up the next day, missed a tornado by about 25 minutes near Mitchell on our way through. So
wow,
yeah, quite the weather patterns there.
1.5 feet of snow.
Yeah, they got in the northern Black Hills last weekend. So yeah,
it won't be there long though, right? It's gone in a few days.
It'll dip away soon this time of year. So we were talking Main Street. I didn't want to get sidetracked because we've got these business awards coming up.
Yep. They're all Main Street.
3 Main Street businesses. How wonderful is that? And with Hoffman Law Firm, Jessica Halfmeyer, and the Village Theater, which is on a resurgence. It's been in great part restored, and they're doing some wonderful family programming down there as far as shows, and have other things to offer as well, in the form of meeting rooms. And they continue the restoration efforts. Really pretty neat to see that coming back too. So there are 3 business award winners this year, all on Main Street.
And it's probably too late to get tickets for the event tomorrow, right?
I think that if you gave a call to the Chamber of Commerce to find out for sure if anybody's interested in going, it may be sold out, but I can't tell you for sure right now.
Okay. the number down there is 334-4381.
So that's it. That is it. Give them a call.
334-4381 is the number. 11:30 tomorrow at the Faribault Elks Lodge, celebrating these businesses of the year. 30th annual business
30th
awards luncheon.
annual. That's it's wonderful to celebrate those successes in our businesses in town. And you know, Chamber of Commerce has stepped up and taken care of that for quite a while now.
And I'll have to say, what they've done, Hoffman, Hamer and Associates, the building downtown.
That's pretty neat down there by Ivan Willick's studio, and to have the investments happen on and right near Central Avenue are blessings, to be honest, at this point. We've got a lot of buildings that have had money put into them and restored, and the more the merrier. You know, keep renovating and improving our historic downtown district. So that's fantastic news, seeing that investment.
And there are some stipulations, I would guess, when you're refurbishing a building that's on the National Register of Historic Places.
There are, and it's important that those stipulations are adhered to in large part. There are concessions that are made, you know, from a practical perspective. You want to make sure that from a budgetary perspective, people can afford to do the best work on those, and also from a materials perspective, not all the materials that were available then were the very best to be used. You want to keep things historic in nature, but also ensure that you're doing proper construction.
Well, for example, they didn't have firewalls back then, right?
No, we had bricks back then. Brick and block and mortar, which served as such. But on the interior sides, the plaster and lath were a little bit different than drywall is. So I'm not one to speak specifically to the details, but I do know that codes have been updated to make sure that you're doing the right work from a safety perspective. So
might have to sprinkle the building, and they obviously didn't have that back then.
Right. Right. So
and I would assume.
On the sprinkle side, you mean?
I would assume that the National Register of Historic Places allows you to do that.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes, and there's our HPC, Historic Preservation Commission, really does a great job making sure that all those criteria are met. You want to be flexible in nature to make sure that progress is made. You don't want to be too cost prohibitive. At the same time, you know, they're charged with maintaining that historic look and the historic aspects that allow us to be on the register.
My good friend Carl Boss tells me they got some exciting news up at the Johnston Hall building.
Oh, they do. Please share. I know that
coming our way. I don't think I can.
Gotcha.
Maybe you were in the position.
You know, I've understood that to be a property of contention. Obviously, it's a beautiful structure. Now, the last standing structure from the Seabury Divinity School, I believe, is sort of the notoriety of it.
I will only say, I think I can say this much anyway, that there have been some positive talks between Alina and the Heritage Preservation Commission about that building.
Good. You want to make sure, and what a tricky spot to be in, right? You've got this awesome historic structure, but it now resides in the middle of a medical campus. Well, priorities become difficult at that point.
They looked at moving it, and they saw how expensive that was.
Oh boy, yeah, that would have to be. Well, they moved the London Bridge right to Arizona at one time. I don't know, maybe that wouldn't be such a big task to move that across town. I don't know.
There's I don't know if you remember this or not, Nort, because you are a Faribault native.
Yes.
There's talk years ago about moving the Alexander Faribault House.
Right.
Out to the fairgrounds.
I do remember those talks. I do remember that conversation. And that's, you know, another one of those things. When it comes to preserving the history, is it as much the location as it is the building? And in some circumstances, I suspect it's better to get the building to a place where it could be more readily available for history buffs to view it. But then you lose the historic location overlooking the river, which is why it was put there in the first place.
Right, I understand that. But you just hit on why I think it should be moved to the fairgrounds. That's just my own personal opinion.
Okay.
I think more people would be able to enjoy it out there than where it's located currently, kind of wedged between.
I'd describe that you have a very good point. Parking's an issue, the traffic's an issue, it's a busy place there. So finding that balance is important, to be sure. I don't know if I would advocate personally or on behalf of the organizations I represent,
Right.
one way or the other at this point.
No,
But it's a good conversation to be had. And something that we've been talking about, and I don't mind sharing that on the radio, is it making sure that we can have those conversations respectfully.
Oh, sure.
Nobody's 100% right when
No.
it comes to those things.
Absolutely not.
And
I just think more people would be able to enjoy it at a location out at the fairgrounds where the old church is and all
I
those
would
buildings.
agree with that point wholeheartedly.
But as you said, originally it was supposed to overlook the river, but then they moved the river,
That's true. You are correct. They did. They straightened the bends in the river, right?
So they moved the river. You'd think you could move the house.
Good point. I enjoy that. We'll have to start our pros and cons list and see where everything shakes out. But those are, again, great conversations to have, and I think that when they're had respectfully, when a decision is made at the end of those conversations, everybody can move forward, and not with malicious thoughts toward those who won the conversation or won the argument, but with the idea that, well, we had constructive conversation and the best decision was arrived at as a group, and we can go forward with the next project in the same manner.
I have to tell you, Nort, I thought about you when I was in Italy.
Okay.
Because of all the tourist destinations in that country.
I thought you saw the David statue and thought, I know a guy with that disease.
No.
That wasn't it? Okay.
It is something to behold, though, and to think of how old it is.
No kidding. I had the blessing to be there for about 3 weeks. It's been a few years now, but what a place. And to understand you're walking on streets with cobblestones. Those cobblestones have been in place longer than Minnesota has been settled. It's just amazing.
It's mind-boggling. It's hard to get your mind around it. It really is.
It is, but certainly a place of beauty, and certainly a place where tourism is.
It's one of the guides pointed out when, I can't remember what, we were looking at some old church or something, and the guide pointed out that this was so many hundreds of years before America was even known.
Yeah. It was still, you would fall off the edge before you got to America back then, right?
And it's hard to wrap your head around that.
We when I was there, I remember seeing apartments. Apartments that had been handed down generation after generation after generation, and the family just keeps living in these same buildings. And you talk about the historic district downtown and the type of construction that exists there with the brick and the mortar and the block and the stone. These things will stay intact and viable structures for a very long time with the appropriate amount of tuck pointing and waterproofing to make sure you don't get those kind of damages because of the materials they're made out of.
Well, originally they did wood, right? That's why all the downtowns burned.
Right.
Most cities have a major fire that happened in
the
their history.
Chicago fire, Deadwood, South Dakota went down with the fire. That's the story all over, to be sure. So these mason buildings, these ones that are done, like you say, in stone and brick and block, they're the way to go.
Lots of marble in Italy,
Oh, to be sure. Yes, we've got one in Faribault with marble on the front of it. Have you seen that? It's next to Grandpa Al's. Give it a look. It's on the historic register, and it's got this smooth marble front on it with a couple of pillars still.
And it's always had that.
Yeah.
The marble you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give that a look sometime.
Yeah. Well, I think I know where you're talking. Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Awesome.
If I were a man that had all my notes, I could tell the exact address and the type of materials it is and everything.
No, that's okay.
But I'll just advise everybody to give it a drive-by and a look.
Yeah, just stop on by. Now, we invite everybody to come to Faribault. It's a terrific community to visit as well as live in.
Yes, and that's key. I talked about that at the city council meeting last night. We talked about the importance of developing our community in a way that tourists like it, but those amenities that tourists like, There are also things that the locals like. We have we were talking about this earlier, a great variety of restaurants. They're not national chain, but how fun to have these individual and creative places that we have, with a number of them on Main Street.
I shared with you before the show, that's what I liked about Italy. They were all mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah, and that's, it's charming, it's unique, it's fun. Cuisine travel, by the way, is growing every year.
They have their own recipes.
Yes.
When you get a chain, you're gonna get the same kind of food everywhere you go.
Yep, you can typically count on what you're gonna get, and which
Is a positive
has
too,
some
yes, I
value,
understand.
but we, as a community, really should embrace the number of restaurants we have that are unique. You can get a good plate of food in a lot of different places in town,
And
to
the
be sure.
variety. I don't think there are many communities this size that have the variety we have.
I agree. You know, we've got
The new Asian buffet,
the Asian buffet.
the Mexican kitty corner from here.
Yes, that one. There's another one still out. The old
No.
Mr. Quick. Do you remember Mr. Quick out where the Kmart used to be? You used to be able to get, when I was in either grade school or junior high, if you had an A on your report card, you could get a free hamburger at Mr. Quick.
Wow.
Bruce Krinke was managing that back then.
You're not serious.
I am serious.
Bruce Krinke managed a restaurant?
The Mr. Quick restaurant.
Oh, I'm gonna
To
have
my
to-
recollection, it was Bruce Krinke that was out there.
I'm gonna have to ask him about that. Thanks,
Do
Cliff,
that.
for stopping by. I appreciate it.
You bet. Always enjoy the conversation.
Yeah. The luncheon is tomorrow. 334-4381 is the chamber number. It's at the Faribault Elks Lodge at 11:30 in the morning. 30th annual as a honor of those businesses, all downtown businesses.